Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's video we're going to be unboxing this dual electronics doubled-in touchscreen radio. This is a multimedia radio, meaning it doesn't necessarily have a CD or DVD drive, but it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. In this unboxing, we're going to get this all pulled apart for you to show you everything that it comes with, and we're going to boot it up to show you the menus and interfaces. Let's get started. Alright, so before we dive into things, big things to note, like I said before, it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. They are wired, it's not wireless, but for the budget-friendly price that we picked this up for, it's a great solution over the higher priced radios out there right now due to the radio shortage thanks to COVID. So having Apple CarPlay and Android Auto for a great price, it's a big plus here. It does have onboard Bluetooth as well, but you'll find that using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you really don't use Bluetooth because you're plugging in your phone anyway, so there's really no need for it. Now, like I said, no CD or DVD drive, but who uses those nowadays? I don't know. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get this thing pulled apart. Alright, so everything in the box so far, we have the main radio itself all wrapped up. We do have a manual, comes with a full manual, which is nice, and your box of accessories. So let's take a look at this. First thing we have is our accessory harness. Essentially, this has all your pre-outs, all your RCAs in case you're adding external aftermarket amplifiers here. Also has your camera inputs. It also has video inputs and outputs. It's your main harness, don't lose this. We also have our power harness that has our speaker outputs, our regular speaker outputs, as well as your steering wheel control cable, all built in. Bluetooth mic, doubled in dash bezel if needed, and mounting hardware. So here is our doubled in. Now it does have this film on it that you'll remove as soon as you are ready. Generally it's recommended you remove this after it's been installed. Now, the chassis design is actually hefty. I'm surprised, especially for the quality of the unit. Your chassis here is very hefty aluminum. It's nice and machined, has nice machined screws. Build quality of this, for the price, I'm actually surprised. In most circumstances, it's a nicer build than a Boss Audio or Soundstream or Planet Audio. It's a nice, much nicer build here. So here on the side, it is technically a doubled in chassis design, but it's a shorter chassis. It's not going to be the full doubled in, but it should fit all dash kits. And there's a lot of different provisions here with machine screws where you can mount it up depending on your application. So if you don't have a lot of space back behind the dash, this is a great option, and it gives you plenty of space for your adapters and everything to sit back behind here and nothing gets smashed. Now here underside of the radio, it actually gives you a wiring diagram and what RCAs go where, which is pretty cool. This helps you identify how to get it wired up with the aftermarket wiring harness adapter that will be chosen for your vehicle. So let's take a closer look at our accessory harnesses here. This has a ton of RCA plugs. So what we've done is we've kind of separated our pairs here. Now it has an AV input. It has a left and a right composite RCA input for audio. It also has a video input as well. So you have your three colors in case you want to add an external media source to display on your radio. You've got your three colors there. This does not have an HDMI port, but you can use an iSimple HDMI to RCA adapter, so you can play HD content through these analog inputs on your radio if you so choose. If you want to know how to do that in detail, we actually have a great video on the channel that walks you through step by step. This also has a camera input. It's only one camera, and this will be your rear camera input. You have a power and ground for a camera, which is super nice to have, that they provide this to you so you don't have to look for an accessory or power source elsewhere. Then lastly here, we have our three sets of pre-outs. We have your front set, your rear set, and your sub set for external amplifiers, whether they're factory or aftermarket. So that is our accessory harness here. Don't lose this. This is an important harness to have. Next here we have our main power harness. Now with this, it has a ton of bare wire ends and your steering wheel control input. This plugs into the back of the radio. If you want more information on how to wire up a radio, we have a great series of video tutorials on the channel, one of which specifically focuses on how to wire one up if you want to get one connected, and also just a general tutorial on how to install a radio in your vehicle. So let's take a closer look at the radio itself before we boot it up. Now here across the bottom we do have some hard buttons. They're not soft buttons, which is really nice to have. Starting on the left hand side, we have a volume down, and then to the right of that is going to be your volume up button. So it's really nice to have those hard buttons, especially if you don't have steering wheel volume controls. It's nice to have a good feedback with a good button. Now to the right of that is going to be your power or your mute button, where you can either cut power to the unit, shut it down manually, or just quickly mute the audio by pressing that button there. To the right of that you have your main source button, which will cycle through the sources on the unit itself, and finally the voice recognition button to the right of that, where generally speaking that is going to launch your Siri on your iPhone or your Android Google Assist if you're using an Android phone. Alright, so we're here on the back. Now, starting on the top left-hand side, we have our main power harness input. That's where our power harness and our speaker outputs will connect to. Below that is an onboard fuse. Now, to the center of that, we have our accessory harness port, where the harness that has all the RCA outputs, that will connect right there. If you're not using any of those accessories on that harness, still plug it in and leave it with the radio. You don't want to lose it. Now to the right of that, here at the top, we have our main mic input. It's a 3.5 millimeter style jack input. Again, not an aux, it's still a mic. There, believe it or not, is not an aux on this radio, only the AV audio input. Now it does have this dongle hanging off here. This is your USB for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and so you'll run this to your desired location. They give you plenty of length here for your smartphone. And then finally, tucked way down here at the bottom is your AM/FM Motorola style antenna input connection, where you'll have your regular radio if you're listening to the classic stations. So that is it on the back of this. Other than that, you have a big aluminum heatsink here. Like I said, very surprised and satisfied by the build quality, at least of the chassis of this radio, as it's nice and hefty and it feels really nice to handle. Let's boot this up for the first time. Alright, so this is our main home screen here. Now we have our main sources across the bottom and a few more as we cycle left or right. Now we have our main radio, USB if one were to be connected, Android Mirror or Android Auto, again if an Android phone were to be connected, CarPlay, same thing if it's connected via USB. Then we have our wireless connections. We have Bluetooth audio, phone, and then just Bluetooth audio for streaming there. Now we don't have a traditional aux built into this unit. That's kind of a thing of the past at this point. But if you do want an aux input or something, you can use this AV input and not hook up the video. But this is your video, the yellow, red, and white cables that we talked about previously on that accessory harness. And then finally you have your settings. So that's your main here. You can also cycle between what's displayed up above here, either what is currently playing within the source itself or your clock and date. Now top right hand corner is your Bluetooth icon, as well as a quick button to adjust the brightness right here on the fly. Now let's start going into the settings itself. Now we have our main radio here. We have 6 bands that you can set things up. You have FM1, FM2, and FM3. So between the 3 FMs, you can set up 18 FM stations if you want. We have AM1, and only AM1. There's only 6 presets available for AM. You can quickly jump to your equalizer, or you can manually key in the frequency that you want for your station. You can manually go forward and back here, and we'll talk about the equalizer here in a bit. Now there's no home button here across the bottom. To go back to the home screen, you actually have to hit the home icon in the top left hand corner. Next would be USB, but again, if we wanted USB, we have to have one connected. Same thing with Android Auto. If you have an Android phone, this is where this would boot up. If you've seen Android Auto in the past, it's the same software. Same thing with Apple CarPlay. Once you have CarPlay connected, an iPhone connected, it will become illuminated in an available option. Here, Bluetooth phone, so if we wanted to go ahead and set up a Bluetooth phone, we certainly can. Once that phone has been paired, You can see the available devices within it, so if you want to quickly jump to a connection, you can. We have a keypad here, so if you want to manually type in the phone number, you can as well. You got your contacts. Those would load from your phone. They'd be transferred over to the radio, so you can easily jump between the contacts there. Call logs would be your received and sent calls. And here's a quick link to your Bluetooth music. Now you can see it's already starting to scan for available devices here in our Provo Beast garage. This is obviously our test bench radio. Now let's quickly jump at the Bluetooth audio. If we had a device set up, it would allow you to stream your audio straight from your phone using that source there. Now AV input would be those composite RCA inputs. Again, this is where you'd probably hook up an aux if you wanted an aux. You wouldn't have a video signal listening to audio, or if you have an external device that plays analog content, you can do it through those RCA inputs. Finally, we got our settings. Now our settings have 4 different categories here. We'll start with the general. We can set the date and the time here quickly by setting those with the up and down buttons. Same thing with the time. You can set the time up there as well. You can set the format in 24 or 12-hour increments. Beep tone is currently set to off. We don't have a speaker hooked up, so we can't hear the beep tone anyways, but once it is set up, if you want to hear the audible beeps every single time you make a selection on the screen, you can turn that on. And then region, obviously Provo Beast is here in the US of A. Jumping over to audio, audio has your equalizer here. Now it's a 7-band equalizer. You can set those as needed. You can also go through to see the preset equalizer options here as well, or go into custom and do your own as wanted. Over here on the top left hand side, this is where you can set up your low pass filter for a subwoofer. Now for mode, you can set your listening position. You can manually set it as needed. You can do front left, front right, back seat, or everything, or custom depending on what you want. And then you have a subwoofer gain control. Now the loudness here, you can use your loudness. It generally adds a little bit more dB to your output, but it also can add distortion. Then finally, we have a reset there at the bottom left hand corner. If you want to reset everything as set previously, we'll go to back. Time alignment here. Now you can adjust your time alignment based on default, surround 1, surround 2, or surround 3. So you have different settings that you can save in here, or default itself. Now surround, you can actually go in and specifically set the distance between that speaker and the listener's ear, depending on where you want this set in the vehicle. So you can get your tape measure out and measure between that speaker cone and your listener's ear, and perfectly get that set up for time alignment. We also have our subwoofer on or off. If you're not hooking up a subwoofer, you can just keep that on off and it turns the gain off as well. Under display, you can adjust the brightness there, and dimmer mode settings. If you have your dimmer wire hooked up, it'll automatically dim the screen when you turn on the headlights, or you can manually set that up as well if needed. Finally, other things. Factory default, you just reset the system. This gives you system version information and open source license information as well. So that's it. A lot of super thorough type settings menu, but there are quite a few settings, and really the bare essentials are what you need for the radio anyways. So at this point of time, that is it for this quick demo and unboxing. That's about it for this video. If you want to see this radio in action, we're going to be installing this on a 2018 Jeep Wrangler JK. Now in that video, we're going to show you how to get everything wired up and installed in that factory location. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to hit the like button if you like what you saw, and don't forget to subscribe. We post great content on the channel all the time, and we will see you in the next video.